On January 27, 2025, something happened that most people completely missed. Nvidia, the most valuable company on the planet at the time, lost nearly $600 billion in a single day. Not over a year. Not over a month. One single day. That is the biggest one-day loss in the entire history of the US stock market. Nothing has ever come close. And here's the part that should make every regular investor stop and think. If you had money in the S&P 500 that day, and right now, millions of Americans do, you lost money. Even if you'd never heard of Nvidia, even if you had no idea what was happening, even if you were just sitting at work, drinking your coffee, living your life, your money took a hit, and you didn't even know why. So what actually happened? A small Chinese startup called DeepSeek announced they had built an AI model, basically their version of ChatGPT, in just 2 months, for $6 million. Now here's why that number matters. American companies like OpenAI have spent hundreds of millions, sometimes billions of dollars building their AI. They've been buying Nvidia's chips by the truckload to do it, chips that cost tens of thousands of dollars each. And then this tiny startup from China said, we did the same thing for $6 million on cheaper chips. Wall Street panicked. If you don't need billions of dollars worth of Nvidia chips to build powerful AI anymore, why is Nvidia worth $3 trillion? So they started selling fast. And because Nvidia is one of the biggest companies in the S&P 500, when Nvidia crashed, the whole S&P 500 felt it. This is the moment I want you to really think about. Most people invest in the S&P 500 because they think they're safe, diversified, spread across 500 companies. But what DeepSeek Day revealed is something that has been quietly building for years. Your S&P 500 investment is not as diversified as you think. In fact, right now, it's essentially one giant bet on AI working out perfectly. And if it doesn't, that $600 billion disappearing act from January 27th might just be a preview. I'm not here to scare you. I'm here to make sure you actually understand what you own and show you 5 moves I'm personally making to protect my money while still growing it. Let's get into it. Okay, before we go anywhere, I need to make sure we're all on the same page, because if you don't understand what the S&P 500 is, nothing else I say today is going to make sense. So let me explain it the simplest way I know how. Imagine America's economy is like a giant pizza. That pizza has 500 slices, and each slice represents one of the 500 biggest companies in the United States. We're talking Apple, Amazon, Google, Tesla, Walmart, the biggest names you've ever heard of, plus hundreds more. Now, when you invest in something called an S&P 500 index fund, you're basically buying a tiny piece of that entire pizza. You don't have to pick which slice is best. You just own a little bit of all of them at once. And historically, this pizza has gotten bigger and bigger over time. On average, it's grown about 10% every single year. That means if you put $1,000 in and just left it there, it could become $10,000 over time without you doing anything. That's why millions of people invest in it. That's why financial advisors recommend it. That's why it's been called the greatest wealth building tool for regular people in history. And honestly, for a long time, it was exactly that. But here's where things start to get interesting and a little bit scary. See, the S&P 500 isn't just a simple equal pizza anymore. Here's how it actually works. The pizza slices are not all the same size. The bigger a company gets, meaning the more valuable it becomes, the bigger its slice of the pizza gets automatically. This is called market cap weighting. Market cap just means how much a company is worth in total. So if Apple is worth $3 trillion and some smaller company is worth $10 billion, Apple gets a way bigger slice than that smaller company. But here's where it gets wild. Right now, in 2025, the top 10 companies in the S&P 500 make up 40% of the entire fund. Let me say that again because it's kind of insane. You think you're investing in 500 companies, but 40 cents of every single dollar you put in goes to just 10 companies. The other 490 companies share the remaining 60 cents. And it gets even more extreme. One company alone, Nvidia, gets almost 8 cents of every dollar you invest. Now, you might be thinking, okay, Jay, but these are great companies. Apple, Amazon, Google, these are the best companies in the world. What's the problem? Here's the problem. Look at what almost all of these top 10 companies have in common. They're all spending absolutely insane amounts of money on the exact same thing. Artificial intelligence. We're talking hundreds of billions of dollars. These companies are in a full-on arms race to build the most powerful AI technology on the planet, and they're not being shy about it. One tech CEO recently said he's willing to spend $1.4 trillion on AI infrastructure. Trillion. with a T. His company currently makes somewhere between $13 and $20 billion a year. So he wants to spend almost 100 times what he earns on one single bet. For these companies to actually be worth what investors are paying for them today, they would need to, together, earn about $2 trillion in revenue, just from AI. To put that in perspective, that's more money than Apple, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Meta, and Nvidia made combined last year. So right now, these companies aren't being valued based on what they have today. They're being valued based on what people are hoping and praying they'll have in the future. But when your entire S&P 500 investment is basically riding on one single technology, working out exactly the way everyone hopes, that's what I call a blind spot. And most investors have no idea. Let me explain what a bubble is really quickly, because it's one of those words people throw around but never actually explain. Imagine there's a new toy. Let's call it a Zap ball. Everyone goes crazy for the Zap ball. Parents are lining up outside stores at 5 a.m. People on eBay are selling it for $500, even though it costs $20 in the store. Now, is the Zap ball actually worth $500? No. But people are paying $500 because everyone else is paying $500. It's hype. It's fear of missing out. Eventually, one day, someone wakes up and says, wait, it's just a toy. And suddenly, nobody wants it for $500 anymore. The price crashes. The people who bought at $500 lose most of their money. That's a bubble. And right now, there's a real conversation happening among serious investors about whether AI stocks are in a bubble. Not because AI isn't real. AI is real. AI is changing everything. But the question is, are these companies worth as much as people are paying for them right now? Or is some of that price based on hype? Here's a stat that actually blew my mind. Deutsche Bank, one of the biggest banks in the world, put out a report saying that if you removed AI spending from the US economy right now, America would probably already be in a recession. Think about what that means. The US economy only looks healthy because of how much money is being thrown at AI. If that spending slows down or things don't work out, it could get ugly fast. Now again, I'm not saying AI is fake. I'm not saying the market is crashing tomorrow. What I'm saying is that putting almost all your eggs in one basket tied to one single technology is risky. And smart investors don't do that. So what do smart investors do instead? Let me show you the 5 moves I'm making. I'm not selling everything and hiding cash under my mattress. The S&P 500 is still a great investment. But I am putting less money into it than I used to. Some people ask, what about an equal weight S&P 500 fund? There is a version where every company gets an equal slice of the pizza. So instead of Nvidia getting 8%, everyone gets 0.2%. On the surface, that sounds perfect. But there's a hidden problem. When a fund like that tries to keep everyone equal, it has to constantly sell the companies that are doing well and buy more of the companies that are doing badly. It literally sells the winners and buys the losers. Over and over again. It's like being in a race. And every time someone pulls ahead, you grab them and pull them back to keep everyone equal. You're punishing the fastest runners for being fast. And all that buying and selling costs money and fees that eat into your returns. My move? I'm keeping the majority of my stock investment in the regular S&P 500. But I'm freeing up some money to put in smarter places. Here's a question for you. If I told you that decades ago, the safest feeling, most obvious place to invest your money was not America, would you believe me? Let me tell you about Japan. Back in the late 1980s, Japan was on fire. Their car companies were taking over the world. Toyota, Honda, Nissan. Their electronics were everywhere. Sony, Panasonic. Meanwhile, America was struggling. Lots of smart investors were saying, Japan is the future. If you were investing back then, and someone told you to put your money in America instead of Japan, you probably would have laughed at them. And then, America came roaring back. Japan's market crashed hard and took decades to recover. My point, no country stays on top forever. Right now, everyone feels like America is obviously the place to invest, just like everyone felt about Japan in 1989. Just like everyone felt about Britain in 1900 when the British Empire ruled the world. So I'm spreading my money globally. There's a fund, ticker VWRP, that invests in roughly 700 to 800 companies across over 45 countries. The US, UK, Europe, Japan, and growing economies like India and China. If the US starts to fall behind, the fund automatically adjusts. It puts more money where growth is happening. You don't have to do anything. And the fee is only 0.19% per year. Less than $2 for every $1,000 you invest. That's basically nothing. If you're in the US, look up FSPSX from Fidelity. Same idea, international exposure at a low cost. Going global doesn't mean you stop believing in America. It just means you're not betting your entire future on one country always winning forever. Remember DeepSeek, that little Chinese startup that crashed Nvidia in one day? Here's the thing most people missed about that story. It wasn't just about China. It was proof of something bigger. DeepSeek showed the world that you don't need billions of dollars to build powerful AI anymore. The tools are getting cheaper. The gap between the biggest AI companies and the smaller ones is shrinking fast. And right now I'm seeing something really interesting happen across the software world. Small and medium-sized apps are starting to let their users pick which AI they want to use. You want ChatGPT? Fine. You want Claude? Also fine. Google's Gemini? Go for it. Think about what that means. These AI models are becoming interchangeable, like gas. Imagine 3 gas stations on the same street. One sells regular gas, one sells premium. One sells ultra premium, the absolute best. Most people just want gas. They want to get from A to B. They don't care if it's ultra premium, so they go to the cheapest station. When AI models become basically equal in quality, people will just pick the cheapest one. That starts a price war, which is great for the people using AI, but terrible for the companies that spend hundreds of billions building it. So if the big AI companies might not be the big winners, who is? The companies that use AI smartly, the smaller ones, the underdogs. Small and mid-cap companies. Mid-cap just means medium-sized. Don't carry $500 billion in AI debt. They're not in an arms race. They just pick up the cheap AI tools the giants built, use them cleverly, and build genuinely useful products. Right now, because everyone is obsessed with the big AI giants, these smaller companies are being completely ignored. Their prices are lower than they probably should be, meaning more room to grow. I call this the overlooked zone. And right now, I think it's one of the best places to put money. I know, gold? Really, Jay? Hear me out. The government can print money whenever they want, and they do all the time. Every time they print more money, the money you already have becomes worth a tiny bit less, because now there's more of it floating around. Gold is different. Nobody can print more gold. There's a fixed amount of it on Earth. So when people get nervous about money, about governments, about the economy, they run to gold, because gold holds its value in a way that printed money just can't. China has been buying gold like crazy, historically crazy levels. And it's not just China. Central banks all over the world are buying more gold than they have in decades. Why? Because something changed in the rules of banking. As of 2025, gold was officially reclassified as a Tier 1 asset. Before this change, gold didn't really count as safe money on a bank's books. Now it counts the same as cash or US government bonds. So suddenly all these banks and investment funds that weren't allowed to load up on gold before, now they can. And they're doing exactly that. Guidelines are now saying banks should keep around 30% of their reserves in gold-type assets. Before it was 20%. That extra 10% demand, multiplied across every major bank and investment fund on Earth, that's a lot of people trying to buy something nobody can make more of. What am I doing? 2 things. First, I bought some physical gold. Real gold I can hold in my hands. Second, I put some money into a gold ETF. ETF just means a fund that holds gold for you. Easy to buy and sell. Tracks the price of real gold. I'm not putting everything into gold, just a small strategic piece of my portfolio. Because in a world where AI is creating instability, having something real that has held value for thousands of years feels like a smart insurance policy. Cash is boring. Cash feels like it's doing nothing. When the stock market is going up, holding cash feels like you're leaving money on the table. But the single biggest financial mistake regular people make is not having enough cash saved as a backup. Because when an emergency hits, job loss, medical bill, anything, and you don't have cash, you're forced to sell your investments, often at the worst possible time. Right when the market has dropped and you should be buying, not selling. Right now, even Warren Buffett, literally the most successful investor who has ever lived, is sitting on $347 billion in cash. That's not a typo. $347 billion, just sitting there. Why? Because he only buys things when the price is genuinely good. And right now, with markets at high levels driven by AI hype, he doesn't see enough good deals. He's waiting. And that patience is exactly why he's worth hundreds of billions of dollars. I'm keeping a bit more cash than usual, for two reasons. 1. If something goes wrong, I'm covered. I don't have to panic sell. 2. If the market crashes, and I believe it will crash, at some point, because it always does, I'll have cash ready to invest at lower prices. Cash in a crisis is power. Remember that. So let's bring it all together. January 27, 2025, DeepSeek Day, was a warning shot, not the crash. Just a preview of what can happen when the whole market is concentrated in one single bet. Most people still don't know why their portfolio moved that day. Most people still don't know how exposed they actually are. Now you do. 5 moves. 1. Keeping most of my money in the S&P 500, but pulling back just a little. 2. Going global with a fund like VWRP, so I'm not 100% dependent on America always winning. 3. Putting money into smaller, overlooked companies using AI smartly without crazy debt. 4. Adding a small amount of gold as insurance against instability. 5. Holding a bit more cash so I'm never forced to sell at the wrong time. Nobody has a crystal ball. I don't know exactly what the market is going to do. Anyone who tells you they know for sure is lying to you. What I do know is this. The investors who build real long-term wealth aren't the ones who made the perfect bet at the perfect time. They're the ones who were prepared for multiple outcomes, who didn't put everything in one basket, who stayed patient, stayed diversified, and kept going even when things got scary. Be that investor, not because the sky is falling, but because you're smarter than that. This is not financial advice. Always do your own research before making any investment decisions.